In this speech, I'm going to talk about Impressionism. I'm going to give you the lowdown on it, kind of tell you what it is, and then I'm going to go in and talk about one of the very influential painters of this movement, which is Monet, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. But according to one of my mom's textbooks from when she was back in college, which was a long time ago, the 80s, I guess. It was called Art, A History of Painting, Sculpture, and Architecture, which came in handy this summer. For the speech, I thought that'd be a good idea. But Impressionism, when referring to art, was a movement in the French painting that started in the 1870s where artists aimed to capture the impression that a scene made when paying close attention to how the light affected the scene. I mean, they may paint the same exact spot, but in different times of the day where the light was different each time on it. These paintings tended to be more of a sketch. It wasn't, prim and proper for that time. Not properly finished at all. And Monet described paintings as a spontaneous one rather than a calculated one. Referring to, it was just like maybe the light was hitting a certain scene just right at that moment. It's just like I have to paint that, not like I'm going to schedule this model and paint her. It was way different than what was for that time. And then, according to the Thames and Hudson Dictionary of Arts and Artists, the first gallery of the Impressionists was in 1874, although their works had been seen for a while in places like the salons and like that since 63. And the Impressionists borrowed their name from one of Monet's painting, Impression Sunrise, which is why he's really important to this movement. He gave them their name. And the formative years of this movement were in the 1860s, and during this time, like the possibilities of using a light palette, which means all sorts of different colors, and working in like the open air, which was practically unheard of at this time, and close analysis of the landscape were explored. In creating these works, the Impressionist habits were way different than what was of that time. They worked outside, which, nowadays, you see, like when I was walking around the campus on IU, you'd see people out painting, like it was nothing, you just didn't think anything of it. They're like, oh, they're artsy, that's cool. But they paid especially, close attention to how the light reflected on their subject. And, the time of the day was really important, how the light was going to play on that. But, the movement slowly but surely gained success and recognition in the 1880s. But by this time, the style had kind of died out. It was less common. So, I have a poster that has the painting I'm going to talk about. Well, a couple actually. This one down here in the corner, the water lilies, which you can see, that is one of Monet's paintings. He did a series of these, which they're all the same exact spot, but they're all different because of how the light played on the subject. And then there he is, here in the middle. That's a self-portrait of himself. Kind of what he looks like. Awesome beard. And then the one right down here in the corner. This is Impression Sunrise. This is the painting that the Impressionists got their name from. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's of a harbor. And there's boats you can see, and like obviously, sunrise name. It shows the sun reflecting off the water. It's really pretty. But Monet was born on November 14th in 1840 in Paris. That's where he's from. He died on December 5th in 1926 in, excuse my pronunciation, Giverny. But his family moved to the Normandy coast at age 5, where his family ran a shipyard and grocery business, according to the Britannica Online Encyclopedia. By this time, he was 15, and he had a reputation at being a caricaturist, which is kind of the start of his art career. Against his parents' wishes, he stayed in Paris to work for free at the Académie Suisse, excuse my pronunciation again. There he met artists such as Pissarro, which, he's major, and, it was him who introduced him to the idea of painting outdoors. Monet was an impressionist, if not, he was the major impressionist at this time. Most of his paintings were of landscapes, which that was what the movement was about, getting outdoors, painting, the outside world. And then according to the Encyclopedia of World Biographies, he developed a sensitivity to the light, atmosphere, and color which captivated his imagination and made his paintings what they are. And like I said, he did a series of paintings, like the water lilies I showed you just a minute or two ago, which, all of them were different, just because of how the light was shining on this subject. And towards the end of his life, he began working on 12 large canvases of water lilies, which goes along with that water lily painting I showed you. And it wasn't easy for him. The last couple decades of his life, according to the Encyclopedia of World Biography, he suffered from poor health, double cataracts, and by the 1920s he was virtually blind. Now imagine painting when you're blind, how hard that must have been, but, he finished these large canvases, and they're some, his best work. But, Impressionism was a big movement. It's still studied today, as I know, because I'm in a humanities class this summer as well. And, you should look at some of the paintings. They're really cool and a lot of fun to learn about.